Hello, this is number 6 from the Quadratic Inequalities handout. I never got to it, but this is different than the other ones because it does not factor at all. So you have to use the quadratic formula. So again, it's number 6 from the handout you already have. The question was, sine of x minus 3 is equal to -1 over sine x. And it says note, well, first of all, 0 is less than x is less than 360. So we have to do in there. It says nearest degree. Nearest degree. And it says note, sine x does not equal 0, but we know that because that would make it undefined if it did, right? So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to put this over 1 and cross multiply and end up with sine x times sine x minus 3 is equal to -1. I'm then going to distribute and get sine squared x minus 3 sine x equals -1. And then I'm going to add the 1 to both sides and get sine squared x minus 3 sine x plus 1 equals 0. Now, a is what's in front of the squared, right? So a equals 1, b equals -3, and c equals 1. There's no two numbers that multiply to give you 1, but add together to give you -3. Okay? So that's why I know that I have to use a quadratic formula or completing the square, but I'm choosing quadratic formula. So x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? So now I'm going to plug everything in. X equals -3 plus or minus the square root of -3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2 times 1. X equals 3 plus or minus the square root of -3 squared is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. 5 over 2. Now, for the record, if you did have a calculator and you didn't put the -3 in parentheses before you squared it, you would come up with the wrong answer. Okay? So now I have this, -3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. I'm going to make 2 branches. I'll actually go down since the shadow is over here. Well, actually, I'm going to go across. I have 3 plus or minus the square root of 5, 3 plus the square root of 5 over 2, and 3 minus the square root of 5 over 2. I use my calculator for these. 3 plus square root of 5 over 2 is approximately 2.618, and 3 minus square root of 5 over 2 is approximately 0.382. Excuse me. Okay, so now, so x is really short for sine x here. So, right, all of these were actually sine x equals, sine x equals, sine x equals. Okay, so now I have sine x equals 2.618. and the sine of x equals 0.382. Well, the sine of an angle cannot be greater than 1 or less than -1. So therefore, there's no solution over here. If you put in your calculator inverse 2.618, it would say error, sine inverse. Here, when I do the inverse sine of 0.382, it's approximately 22 degrees. It says in the question to the nearest degree, so approximately 22 degrees. Okay, where is sine positive? Sine is positive in the first quadrant and the second quadrant, right? How many times can we write that? It's positive in the first and the second. So in the first quadrant, 22 degrees is actually 22 degrees. And in the second quadrant, 180 minus 22 is equal to 158 degrees. So the answer to this question is 22 and 158 degrees. Okay? So that was number, oh, sorry, here so you can see. You could take, you could pause it or take pictures of it when you're looking, whatever you want. Let me put things back in the shadow. Okay, so that was the answer. It was just like we've been doing, except that we had to use the quadratic formula over here to be able to get the values because it did not factor, not even with the AC method. So we had to use the quadratic formula. So if you want to practice one quadratic formula on your own, okay, you should do number 13, okay? Do number 13. Now, I'm going to put up right after this number 13, so you can pause it, and then if you want to try one on your own and see if you could do it, that's great. I'm not going to give you a separate homework assignment on this because I only want to collect homework like 3 times a week, and I collected it on Monday, and I collected one on Wednesday, and I'm already collecting one tomorrow, right? I already have one that's due tomorrow night, so that's 3. But I will be giving homework on Friday that I'll be collecting on Monday. But anyway, so here is number 13 is one that on the same handout, on the exercise part, number 13 right here, this one is a quadratic formula 1 as well, okay? And I'm going to just put up the answer if you want to look at it, just so you have it over here. Well, I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. And I'm going to move it up so you can see the rest of it as well. Okay, so all the steps out, everything there. And then the second half, you can pause your screen, and then the second half is over here. So this is number 13. So, again, all you have to do today is watch the video, try number 13. You do not have to hand it in, and then check number 13 and see if you got it right. Okay? We all need time to breathe. I don't want to give you too much work every single day. I hope you're doing okay, everyone. Have a good day. Signing off.